Hey there, and welcome to Go Natural English Fluent in 15 Pack 3 Lesson Breakdown. I had a great time talking with Chuck. I hope that you enjoyed the conversations too. And now I'm going to help you by breaking down some of the phrases that are really important for you to know in order to understand American English and to be able to use English like a native speaker. So I'm sure that you could understand the main idea of the conversations. That's great. But the thing that might be keeping you from really engaging in conversation like a native speaker is understanding these phrases that I'm going to present to you now. Okay, in conversation 1, I say, I'm doing great. Now this is not what you learn in your textbook. You learn to say, I'm fine, thank you, and you. But as we know, sometimes textbooks don't talk like native speakers. So I'm doing great is a perfectly acceptable way to respond when someone asks you how you're doing. So let me hear you say it. I'm doing great. Good. Okay, next. Chuck asks, do you mind if I get comfortable? So this is a common phrase that you could use, if you just arrived at someone's home and, you're sitting down at the table or at the couch or whatever, and, you want to maybe sit in a more relaxed way. So people will ask, do you mind if I get comfortable? Tell me a little bit about yourself. So this is a question that I asked Chuck. I want to know where he's from, what brought him to Japan. These are all very common questions for when you first meet someone. So you can use them in any kind of situation, whether you are in a social situation or a work situation. They're really key questions. So I'm going to ask you to repeat them after me. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Okay? Where are you from? Okay? Or a little bit faster, where are you from? Good. Okay. What brought you to, let's say, what brought you here, right? Since, I don't know, Japan might not be the place where you're living. What brought you here? What brought you here? Okay, great. So I say I'm originally from Minneapolis. That means, in today's day and age where people often move, you may have been born in one place, but you moved to a new place, and maybe you moved several times. So if you want to talk about your birthplace, you can say, I'm originally from, and then your city. Okay, Chuck says, right on. That's kind of, words of encouragement. Very cool to use those words, right on. Midwest represent. So this is another kind of slang phrase just to say, I'm from the Midwest too. So if you have something in common with someone, you could say the thing you have in common. Like, let's say you both play guitar. You could say, guitar players represent. And it's just a fun, modern slang that you can use to express, your common feelings of enjoyment of that thing, or your pride in that one thing. Chuck says, originally I came to Asia. So originally I came to Asia for, I think he said martial arts. Originally is like at first, but a little bit different. It just means to begin with. So originally he came to Asia for martial arts, and then later he started teaching, he started doing other things, acting. So the first thing that he came to do was martial arts. He says, once I got to Japan, I ended up just never leaving. So ended up is the result of something that you didn't think was going to happen. Like, you had a plan and maybe your end results didn't exactly fit your plan. You didn't think you were going to stay in Japan forever or for 10 years or more, but you did. You ended up doing something unplanned. That's when we use ended up, is when your plans change, you end up doing something that was a little bit unplanned. So Chuck says, I have to know a lot of martial arts. So he's saying I have to, but when native speakers say have to together, it sounds like have to. So let me hear you say it, have to. Okay, good. He says, I know 10 of them all together. So all together is a way of saying, many things, the sum of many things is all together. So in unison, when you add them all up, it's all together. He says, I've done a lot of other martial arts on the side. So on the side is something that's not your main focus. On the side could be a hobby. It could be something you do on the weekends. On the side. Next, he says, I'm out of practice now. So if you haven't done something, could be anything, you haven't done it for a while, then you are out of practice. So what are you out of practice in? Maybe you had a hobby a couple years ago that you used to do a lot, but now you're kind of rusty or out of practice. He then says, that was the thing that kept me in Japan. So to keep you in a place is to make you want to stay. So I thought I would explain that phrasal verb, to keep me in Japan, is to make me want to stay longer. I got into a Godzilla movie. This is something that Chuck says. I got into is different from I'm into. We've talked before about I'm into means you're interested in something. But when Chuck says, I got into a Godzilla movie, he means that he was accepted to perform in a Godzilla movie. So I got into means that you were accepted, okay? Really different from I am into. After that, all of a sudden, I was working in entertainment. So all of a sudden means it was a surprise. It happened very quickly. And last of all, I asked Chuck, I want to ask you more about how you got started. So this is a great way to bridge the conversation, to ask someone a question. You can say, I want to ask you more about something. Okay, so it's a nice way to sort of introduce your question if you'd like to ask more questions. All right, I hope you enjoyed the first conversation. Next, listen to the second conversation and then the breakdown. All right, I'll see you there.